Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about pencil hardness and which pencils to use for the project that you're working on. And we're just going to give a brief explanation of what the numbers on those pencils mean and what the letters mean. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. If you want to do that, you can kind of hop over to the web, Google, and get into the nitty gritty. But as far as artist goes, it's actually pretty simple. So I'm an illustrator, been doing illustration for 30 years. I've worked for Marvel, EA Sports, I've worked in video games, all those type of things, from traditional media to digital and so forth. And I've always just kind of appreciated making information digestible so somebody can use that to rather quick effect when they start to draw. So if you've got pencils laying around, the first thing I would do, regardless of the number on there, is to get your sketchbook out, some pieces of paper, and just play with them, test them. You know, press hard on them, press soft on them, see what happens, and that's where you're really going to learn how those different medias work. So let's hop on over here and let's take a look at the pencil hardness here, the scale, and we'll just kind of go over this real quick. Okay, so right here we have 9B all the way to 9H. Let's put these up here, 9B. Okay, and then we have everything in between. Just so you know, this HB right here, okay, that is pretty much equivalent to a number 2 pencil that you would have used in school. You've all seen the yellow pencils, so forth. But that being said, every manufacturer of pencils, they don't conform to a standard. So every pencil is going to be a little bit different. And I've gone through some pencils that I like, Stadler, Barrel. I think you're going to be able to do pretty well with just about any pencil out there. I do tend to stay away from a lot of the materials at Michaels, the General. I think the brand that's General, some of those, and not because the lead's any worse necessarily. It does get worse when you move to like charcoal pencils and so forth, but it's the wood that goes around that lead. And so pencils are probably all going to cost you about $1 a piece. So if you're really into pencil drawing and using graphite, it's just worth it to spring for a little bit more because it really doesn't cost that much. So again, back here, what this means on this scale is you can see a 9H on that scale is the hardest, okay? That's going to be your hardest pencil, and it's also going to be your lightest, okay? We move over here, the 9B is going to be your blackest pencil or darkest, okay? And it's also going to be your softest pencil. Okay, so when I'm actually, one of the things that I want to impress upon you that's probably just as important, if not more important than the actual pencil that you're going to be choosing, is what surface you're going to be working on. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where people come in and they explain what pencil hardness means, but it does you very little good if you're not going to use it in conjunction with what you're going to be working on. So what do I mean by that? If you're going to be working on, say, a Bristol board or an illustration board, which is a lot firmer, it's got some girth to that paper or to the board. Everything has a different surface. So if I were going to go on there and I'm a really heavy-handed person, I press really hard, I'm going to want to stay away from the 2H, 3H, 4H, and so on, because if you press too hard with one of those pencils, it's going to leave a mark in that paper. So even if you can erase it, it's still going to leave an impression in there. You've probably seen that in different drawings that you've seen. So on the other side of the scale, we have the 9Bs. I rarely see anybody go to a 9B. I've pretty much operated, honestly, this range right here, probably on up to a 6B. This is kind of the range that I've pretty much stayed in, and I don't know too many people, unless they actually specialize in pencil or graphite drawings, that will go beyond that. And trust me, there's a lot of people that are they're far better than I am in doing graphite, because that's all that they do. So So let's go back to the surface that you're going to be working on. So take me, for example. I'm a painter. I like working on canvas. Some of those canvases are very smooth. Some are very rough. I work on different textured sketchbooks, and they will all take the media or your pencil differently. Okay, so that's the first thing you're gonna ask yourself. What am I working on? Watercolor paper, canvas paper, those type of things. And then the next question you got to ask yourself is, what's your style? I mean, if you're experimenting, that's one thing. But if your style is, say, you want to do a very high contrast drawing, or a drawing with a high dynamic range. Let's put this one up here. This picture has a large dynamic range. That means that it goes all the way from white all the way to black. And so you're going to be using probably a variety of those pencils in there. From probably, I don't think I probably stayed at an HB, probably a 2B on this, all the way up to a 6B. And if I'm doing this for like the web, I can always just go into Photoshop and I can alter that dynamic range. So I really don't worry about it too much. So let's take another one here. So this drawing, this was done with an HB pencil, and again, if you see, I take it into Photoshop and I can alter that really quick. So I just did this really quick so you could see Photoshop. You can just alter the dynamic range on that if you're just making it for digitally, or you just want to print it out and paint over it, whatever your style is. So let me kill those really quick. So once you've decided the surface you're going to work on, that's how you determine which pencil you're going to use. And again, I'm not going to get into the chemistry of the pencil too much, but I'll just say this. If you're asking yourself, why is a 9H harder than a 9B, in that whole range, all that means is that the manufacturer is putting, this has, excuse me, let me put this pen here. 9B and all these pencils right here, this whole range, they have less clay in them and more graphite. That's why they look darker. Okay, so when you go to this end right here, they have more clay and they deposit less graphite. That's why they're lighter. Okay, pretty simple stuff. So to me, again, I rarely use pencil hardly anymore as a painter. And I want to throw this little bit out there because I think a lot of people go through school or they go through their careers and they feel the need to put a drawing down every time they do a painting. Drawing is just a process. Whether you're using graphite, colored pencils, paint, ink, whatever your medium is, you're drawing. So like when I do a painting, I just dive in and I draw with paint as opposed to graphite, and I go from there. But if you can see, let's see, let me throw this one up here real quick. You can see in the background here behind me, there's a couple of these posters here. You've probably seen Drew Struzan did all the the Harry Potter, Star Wars, those type of things. He does a pencil drawing on his illustration board. He gessos the illustration board with an acrylic gesso. He does a drawing on there, and then he does washes of acrylic colored pencils over the top of those. So if you're really into drawing like he is, it's very imperative that you pick the right tool. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. If you have any comments or suggestions or something you'd like to know, please throw it in the comments. I'd be happy to read them, hear them, and see if I can respond to them. So I appreciate you stopping by my channel, and I'm out. Bye.